That messenger was very fast, so he soon arrived before the 6. The messenger slightly paused for a moment. His green eyes swept across the 6 of them. Aside from Old Man Hu and the old man in the black cloak, everyone's hearts trembled and they lowered their heads. There are 2 soul formation cultivators here. The light disappeared, revealing the handsome-looking young man. Although the woman who came with Old Man Hu had her head lowered, her cheeks still turned slightly red. This man was the most handsome person she had ever met. "Where are you guys going?" The young man's voice was calm, but it didn't hide the condescending aura. The old man was immediately able to tell that this young man's cultivation was at the peak of the early stage of soul formation. He sneered in his heart but revealed nothing on the surface as he said, "We are going to the immortal graveyard." The young man's gaze landed on the woman with the white veil and he said, "Take off your veil." The old man with the black cloak stepped forward and said, "Lord Messenger, my lady has orders from the head of the house that she can't easily reveal her face. I hope that Lord Messenger can understand." The young man's gaze lit up. After pondering for a bit, he waved his sleeves and flew away. The 6 of them pondered for a while. Old Man Hu's eyes lit up and then he followed the young man. He wanted to see why this Suzaku messenger had come to Chu. After he moved, Chiu Siping, Su Luo and the woman quickly followed. The white-veiled woman looked at the old man, clenched her teeth and followed them. The old man let out a sigh and followed her. Everyone followed the young man, but from a distance. They saw him flying north. It seemed like his destination was also the immortal graveyard. Old Man Hu secretly thought, could some kind of treasure have appeared in the immortal graveyard? But just as that thought went through his head, his expression suddenly changed when he saw the young man flying over a valley. The young man seemed to have met some kind of powerful force and was pushed back more than 100 feet. The young man revealed a shocked expression. Old Man Hu landed on a nearby mountain. Everyone else followed him and looked at the young man. The young man frowned. He took out a jade and checked it. The instructions inside the jade led to this place. He pondered for a bit before taking a few steps forward. Then he suddenly felt a terrifying pressure. So his expression changed and he quickly backed up. Old Man Hu was curious. He looked toward the valley and saw a pagoda. Below the pagoda sat a person, but there was no life coming from that person. It looked like a mummified body. The young man tried a few times but couldn't go more than 5 kilometers deep into the barrier. His expression was unsettled, and in the end he clasped his hands and said, "I'm Feng Yushan of Suzaku. I wish to greet fellow cultivator Tseng Niu." Tseng Niu. Old Man Hu's eyes became serious. He was shocked. His eyes unconsciously landed on the mummified body below the pagoda. It was no surprise that he was this shocked. The name Tseng Niu had become very famous in the Sea of Devils. Stories about Tseng Niu almost never ended. There was a rumor that he had been secretly trained by Suzaku, and would be the person to inherit the title of Suzaku. Otherwise, how else would Suzaku not respond with their usual overbearing style after he took an arm from Red Butterfly? There was also a rumor that he was a disciple of some secret power, and that his talent was far beyond Red Butterfly's. The rumors also stated that within this secret power, there were many cultivators far more powerful than Tseng Niu, which was why Suzaku didn't dare to move against him. In addition, there's some even more ridiculous rumors saying that Tseng Niu hadn't even cultivated for more than 60 years, making him even more valuable to Suzaku than Red Butterfly. There were numerous stories and rumors like this. Tseng Niu. The white-veiled woman's eyes lit up and her breathing became rough. She thought that if Tseng Niu would help her, then everything would be all right. The old man beside her revealed a hint of respect in his eyes. "I never thought that the famous Tseng Niu would be here." Chiu Siping took a deep breath. No wonder a messenger from Suzaku would come to Chu. Su Luo revealed a look of disbelief. The beautiful woman softly said, "I wonder what relationship this Tseng Niu has with Chu." The moment she said this, Old Man Hu pondered for a bit and then said, "Cancel the order to send someone to the Cloud Sky sect." Su Luo was startled, but he quickly agreed. The young man waited for a bit. After hearing no response, he frowned and said, "Fellow cultivator Tseng, I'm not here about you injuring Red Butterfly but to deliver her challenge letter. I hope you can come out to meet me." The moment he said this, the 6 people all had various expressions on their faces. Old man whose eyes lit up and he looked toward the valley. After a long time, there was still no response from the valley. Feng Yushan was very angry. He was a disciple of Suzaku, so he was shown respect everywhere he went. Not even rank 5 cultivation countries dared to retreat him like this. Feng Yushan's eyes became gloomy and he slowly said, "Fellow cultivator Tseng, don't refuse our goodwill only to regret it later. No one dares to ignore the orders of Suzaku." The moment he finished speaking, a powerful force came from the valley. The power formed a giant hand which grabbed the young man. A series of crackling sounds came from within the hand. Feng Yushan's forehead was covered in sweat and his eyes were filled with fear. "I'm a messenger of Suzaku. Fengyo, don't be rash. I'm only here to deliver the challenge letter." A calm voice came from within the valley. "The date?" Feng Yushan quickly said. 3 months from now, on Mount Suzaku in the Western Heaven Temple. "How did you know I was here?" Although Wang Lin's voice was calm, there was a hint of killing intent within it. Feng Yushan didn't hesitate to respond. "I really don't know. This was sent from Mount Suzaku. If it wasn't for them, Red Butterfly's master would have already come looking for you. Your location was also sent down by them." At this moment, old man whose expression became strange. He felt like he was familiar with this voice. He turned around and looked at Cho Siping to see that Cho Siping was dumbfounded. It seemed like Cho Siping had already guessed the same thing. After a pause, Wang Lin's voice came from the valley. "I don't have the time." The invisible hand around Feng Yushan disappeared, allowing him to regain his freedom. His back was covered in cold sweat at this point. Now he finally understood the terror of Tseng Nyo. He originally thought that Tseng Nyo was only able to take senior apprentice sister Red Butterfly's arm because he used some tricks. Now he no longer thought like that. Wang Lin's response put him in a difficult situation. He pondered a bit, clasped his hands and respectfully said, "Fellow cultivator Tseng, it is by the order of Mount Suzaku that you battle with Red Butterfly. They rarely ever send out any messages. In the past 100 years they only sent out 3. The first time was to recruit Red Butterfly as a core disciple. The second time was to stop people from pursuing you. The third time was when they gave out your location and ordered you to fight Red Butterfly. I believe that you will receive great benefits if you win." After all, of the 3 messages, 2 of them were related to you. Wang Lin's voice came from inside the valley. "Tell Red Butterfly that even if she wants to battle, it will have to be in 10 years. Feng Yushan pondered for a bit, let out a wry smile and clasped his hands. He turned around and disappeared in a ray of light. "Old friends in the valley, please come in." With that, Zhou Yi's domain disappeared. Old man who laughed and walked into the valley. Behind him, the white-veiled woman and her servant followed. Cho Siping hesitated for a bit before quickly following in along with Su Luo and the woman. Inside the valley, the mummified body moved when the 6 of them arrived. After a series of crackling sounds, the mummified body's eyes opened. Wang Lin took a deep breath, stood up and let out a smile. He waved his hand and surrounded himself in a thick white fog. After the fog disappeared, Wang Li appeared before them wearing a white robe. Everything that had landed on his body during his time cultivating had disappeared. Wang Lin pointed at the ground and suddenly a table made of stone appeared from the ground. Several stone chairs also appeared. "Please sit." Wang Lin sat down, waved his hand, and a tea set appeared on the table. Old man who stared at Wang Lin and sat down across from him. The beautiful woman quickly greeted Wang Lin, walked up and poured tea for everyone. Wang Lin looked at the black-cloaked old man next to the white-veiled woman and smiled. "Fellow cultivator, please sit." The old man took a long look at Wang Lin. He recognized that this was the same person from back then. A complex expression appeared on his face as he sat down. The others also sat down. Old man who looked at Wang Lin and bitterly smiled. "I don't know if I should call you fellow cultivator Wang or fellow cultivator Tseng." Wang Lin picked up a cup, took a sip and smiled. "Names are just what we call each other. There is no need to worry too much about it." The white-veiled woman was still looking at Wang Lin. Her face showed a complex expression. She would never have guessed that the famous Tseng Nyo was this person. Wang Lin looked at the woman and said, "Lady is still as beautiful as before. I believe that you are heading to the immortal graveyard to save your father since you are with fellow cultivator who?" the white-veiled woman whispered. Back then, this little girl didn't know Senior's identity. I hope Senior forgives my rudeness. The name Tsunyo was very famous throughout Suzaku. Even old man who was shocked by it, much less her Wang Lin, put down his cup and silently shook his head. He looked toward Chiu Siping and said, Brother Chiu, if you give up everything and stay alone, you have a chance to comprehend the ways of the heavens. Chiu Siping wryly smiled. He knew that he wouldn't be able to keep the fact that he was now following old man who from Wang Lin. He said, reaching the soul formation stage is difficult. Old man who picked up the cup and took a sip. He was shocked by the flavor. Fellow cultivator Wang, this tea? Wang Lin smiled. This tea is not from Suzaku but from another cultivation planet. I accidentally got this during my trip to the celestial realm many years ago. Old man who took a deep breath. He stared at Wang Lin with a trace of hesitation in his eyes before saying, Rumor has it that when Brother Wang went to the celestial realm, you took an arm from Red Butterfly. Was Brother Wang able to obtain celestial spiritual energy? The way he referred to Wang Lin unconsciously changed. Wang Lin looked at Old Man Hu and said, I have obtained some. Old Man Hu's eyes lit up. He looked at Wang Lin and sincerely said, I am willing to pay any price for some celestial spiritual energy. I hope fellow cultivator Wang is willing to sell some. Wang Lin faintly smiled. This matter is not urgent. We can wait until it is time to break through to the soul transformation stage. I wonder, what is fellow cultivator Hu going to the immortal graveyard for? Old Man Hu secretly thought that although Wang Lin hadn't cultivated for long, he was an old fox who could easily change the subject. After hearing Wang Lin, he laughed and said, That is true. Then when this old man is about to reach the soul transformation stage, I'll have to come and ask you for some. As for the immortal graveyard, you will have to ask fellow cultivators the XIAN to explain. The white-veiled woman looked at Wang Lin and said, Senior, inside the immortal graveyard there is a reincarnation tree. Junior has a map that can lead us there. Wang Lin calmly took a sip of tea. The woman who came with Old Man Who obediently poured another cup for Wang Lin. She would occasionally glance at Wang Lin. After Chiu Siping heard reincarnation tree, his eyes were filled with desire. Su Luo showed the same look. The white-veiled woman looked at Wang Lin and found that his expression hadn't changed at all after hearing about the reincarnation tree. His reaction was just like Old Man Hu's. She couldn't help but secretly sigh. Wang Lin was extremely mischievous, so she couldn't see through him at all. It looked like aside from strength, a soul formation cultivator's slyness was far above a nascent soul cultivator's. Old Man Who looked toward Wang Lin and found that there was no change in Wang Lin's expression. Now he believed even more of the rumors about Song Nyo. Sitting under the reincarnation tree allows a cultivator to experience an extra life cycle. This is very good for soul formation cultivators, because it allows them to increase their understanding of their domain. The white-veiled woman looked at Wang Lin. She didn't believe that he wasn't tempted. Unfortunately, she still couldn't see any changes in Wang Lin's expression. Wang Lin let out a faint smile. He looked toward Old Man Hu and said, Ridiculous. The domain of a soul formation cultivator is something that they comprehend themselves. This reincarnation tree might have some effect on peak late-stage nascent soul cultivators or early-stage soul formation cultivators whose cultivation hasn't stabilized yet. I believe Old Man Who has other goals for this trip. The white-veiled woman was startled. She looked toward the old man in the black cloak to see that he was also frowning. Old Man Who laughed. He didn't try to hide it. He said, Brother Wang is really knowledgeable. I'm impressed. You are indeed correct. The white-veiled woman frowned and looked toward Old Man Who. Old Man Who laughed. Fellow cultivators the XIAN, don't blame me. If it was just for the reincarnation tree, I wouldn't follow you into the immortal graveyard. What I want is the reincarnation fruit. After he finished speaking, he looked toward Wang Lin and said, Without Brother Wang, I'm only 30% confident in succeeding, but if Brother Wang comes, I'll be 60% confident. Reincarnation fruit. Although Wang Lin's expression remained normal, his heart was moved. When he heard about the reincarnation tree, Wang Lin's mind began to work. Then when he heard the words reincarnation fruit, he was even more sure. He pondered for a bit and then said, Is this the fruit that is the size of a fist and changes colors every 2 hours? Old Man Whose eyes lit up. He took a long look at Wang Lin and then said, "Brother Wang really is very knowledgeable. That is the way to identify the fruit. For us soul formation cultivators, it is a great treasure. If it is eaten at the late stage of soul formation, it will increase one's chance of reaching the soul transformation stage by 30%. I have only seen it in some old text." Wang Lin pondered for a bit. From the memories of the ancient god, there were few fruits that were very good for a young ancient god. Due to the ancient god's bodies, most fruits were useless. Even celestial fruits could only increase their spiritual energy by a bit. Only a handful of spirit fruits could have any effect. While they wouldn't increase their cultivation level, if they smeared one of those fruits all over their body, it would strengthen their foundation. This was called body cleansing among the ancient gods. Normally, an adult ancient god finds a fruit and cleanses the body of a baby ancient god before they throw them into the core of a planet. An ancient god that has gone through body cleansing has their meridians completely hidden inside their body. As a result, the speed at which the ancient god absorbs spiritual energy increases greatly. The meridians only reappear when the ancient god reaches adulthood, and at that point, the rate at which they absorb spiritual energy will already have reached a terrifying degree. In ancient times, every single ancient god was hunted by every living thing because wherever there was an ancient god, there would be no spiritual energy for anyone else. However, most things that try to kill an ancient god end up dying themselves. Only after going through body cleansing could Wang Lin's original body be considered a real ancient god. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before saying, "Immortal graveyard." Old man who said, "This immortal graveyard is very dangerous. After all, there is a power there that even Suzaka dreads. However, as long as we don't go in too deep, then there shouldn't be too many powerful savage people." Wang Lin didn't know much about the immortal graveyard. He only knew from the map that the immortal graveyard was very large and that compared to its surface, the underground portion was even larger. No one besides Suzaka knew exactly how many layers the immortal graveyard had. Brother Wang should know that these savages were the natives of this planet. When Suzaka became a rank 6 cultivation country, they were gifted this planet by the Cultivation Alliance. They then had a large war with the savages. This originally lively planet was ravaged during the war, and has now turned into a half-wasted planet. All of this was caused by the savages. During this war, 90% of the savages were killed. The survivors then escaped into the immortal graveyard. Every 100 years, Suzaka sends countless cultivators to kill them, but they still can't wipe them all out. The reincarnation tree grows underground and is considered holy by the savages. However, there are a total of 9 reincarnations trees which give us a chance. As for the reincarnation fruit, as long as we can find a tree, I have a secret method for it to bear fruit within 3 hours. Wang Lin pondered for a bit. He looked toward the white-veiled woman and asked, "Why did your father go to the immortal graveyard?" The white-veiled woman whispered, "To get me a piece of reincarnation wood." Wang Lin didn't ask further questions. He pondered for a bit before saying to Old Man Hu, "I can't make a decision right now." Old Man Hu nodded. "No problem. The immortal graveyard is indeed dangerous. I hesitated for a long time before making the decision as well. How about this? We will wait for you outside the immortal graveyard for 1 month. If you don't come, we will go on our own." Wang Lin nodded. Old Man Hu stood up and smiled. "Then I won't bother you anymore. I'll wait for you there." With that, he clasped his hands and left. Qiu Siping and company quickly stood up and said their goodbyes. The white-veiled woman stood up, hesitated, and whispered, "XIAN hopes to see Senior there." She then flew up and left. The old man behind her clasped his hands and followed her. After the 6 of them left, Wang Lin picked up the teacup and took a sip. His eyes were sparkling. The reincarnation fruit is very useful for the original body. If I can obtain it, the original body's power will increase by a lot. He pondered for a bit before slapping his bag of holding. 3 carvings appeared in his hand. 6 of these time domain carvings have been destroyed, leaving only 3. So the power of the time domain that they can display has greatly weakened. Sadly, there are no 100-year-old trees to make new ones with. After putting away the wooden carvings, Wang Lin checked his bag and took out an arm. This arm had remained in good condition. There was even a thin layer of ice covering it, releasing a cold aura. Suzaku didn't act to help Red Butterfly but sent this challenge letter instead. It is indeed strange. Wang Lin pondered for a long time, but he couldn't think of why. It looks like a battle with Red Butterfly is inevitable, but as long as she hasn't reached the soul transformation stage, I'll have a chance to win. Wang Lin sneered. He then reached out and a stone chair flew over and landed before him. The chair looked like it was going to melt, but it morphed into a basin. Wang Lin put Red Butterfly's arm inside it. Then he formed a seal and black light appeared on his hand. Wang Lin pointed at the arm and the black light entered the arm. Subsequently, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out several small bottles. These bottles were things that Wang Lin had obtained during these past few hundred years. They contained the poison from a spirit beast. He broke the bottles open and poured out the contents. Red, blood-like liquid came out and fused with the arm. Then Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He formed a seal that created a ghostly light. The ghostly light quickly took the shape of a skull and entered the arm. Wang Lin didn't stop. He continued to create skulls until 99 more of them had entered the arm one by one. The color of the arm suddenly changed from the original snow white to black and red. It looked terrifying and there was now also a stench coming from it. After doing all of this, Wang Lin clenched his hands, causing the basin to morph into a container. The arm was now sealed inside it. At this very moment, in a location in Suzaku that looked like a painting, Red Butterfly was cultivating on top of a lotus. The area was surrounded by clear, blue water and luscious greens. There were even spirit beasts nearby. Inside the water were some carps with very long whiskers. Their eyes showed life. They clearly had gained intelligence. Red Butterfly was wearing a red robe. Only the sleeve for her right arm was empty. Sitting on a lotus facing her was a very handsome, middle-aged man. He stared at Red Butterfly with tenderness in his eyes and said, "Junior apprentice sister Red Butterfly, I have given you the spirit of the Eastern Sea that will regrow your arm. Why haven't you used it?" Red Butterfly opened her eyes and coldly responded, "Every time I look at my empty sleeve, my urge to kill Tsungyo increases. Until I kill him, my arm will stay missing. Senior apprentice brother, don't try to change my mind." Tsungyo. A hint of killing intent flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes. Tsungyo wanted to destroy my Dao heart, however, because he took my arm. Not only was my Dao heart not destroyed, it is now even more complete. I'm glad that Mount Suzaku wants him to fight me. Red Butterfly raised her head and looked into the distance. Humph, if it wasn't for Mount Suzaku, I would have already gone out and captured Tsungyo for junior apprentice sister to kill. The middle-aged man's eyes were sparkling. Red Butterfly was about to speak when her expression suddenly changed. A black line with a sliver of red inside appeared in her forehead and quickly spread. Red Butterfly's left hand quickly pressed on her forehead. Her face constantly changed colors as she struggled. After a long time, the black line receded. There was a deep look of hatred on her face. Tsungyo is trying to injure me by refining my lost arm. Red Butterfly's left hand formed multiple seals and sent them to her forehead. After a long time, she struggled to stand up before sitting down again. She had a gloomy expression on her face. Junior apprentice sister, I'm going to kill Tsungyo even if it is against Mount Suzaku's orders. At most, they will just punish me by making me go into closed-door cultivation for 100 years. The middle-aged man's heart ached as he turned around to leave. Red Butterfly whispered, "Senior apprentice brother, if anyone is going to kill Tsungyo, it will be me." Mount Suzaku sent out 2 messages about Tsungyo. If you kill him, it won't be something as simple as 100 years of closed-door cultivation. The middle-aged man's expression was sullen as he sat back down again. However, he took out a piece of jade, recorded some information, and threw it out. "I won't go myself. I'll send out some cultivators from those lower-ranking cultivation countries. That way, Mount Suzaku can't do anything to me either." Red Butterfly didn't respond. She closed her eyes to focus her attention on sealing in the black line that had invaded her. East of Suzaku there was a mountain shaped like a bird. This mountain became known as Mount Suzaku. Mount Suzaku was the holy land of Suzaku. Everything that happened in Suzaku had to receive their approval. On this day, a white-robed young man arrived at the foot of the mountain. He was in a difficult position. He paced around the foot of the mountain for a while before climbing up the steps. Outside a palace midway up the mountain, The young man knelt down on one leg and said, "Disciple Feng Yushan seeks an audience with Elder." After a long time, a voice came out from the palace. "What is it?" Disciple was ordered by Mount Suzaku to send a challenge letter to Tseng Niu. However, Tseng Niu didn't accept it and delayed it by 10 years. Feng Yushan didn't dare to lie at all. The voice in the palace gloomily said, "Humph, Tseng Niu really doesn't know his place. You can leave. Someone else will bring him here." Feng Yushan's forehead was covered in sweat as he quickly left. "Ziwu, go bring Tseng Niu here." As the voice echoed in the palace, a person covered in fog suddenly appeared. Ziwu lazily asked, "Dead or alive?" The voice from the palace answered, "However you like." "Okay." Ziwu turned around and was about to leave. However, just at that moment, a red light came down from the top of Mount Suzaku and entered the palace. The owner of the voice from the palace was surprised. He slowly said, "Wait." After a long time, a gentle snort came from the palace. "Forget it, you don't have to go. We will wait 10 years for him." Ziwu shrugged his shoulders and disappeared within Mount Suzaku. Inside the palace sat an old man whose hair and eyebrows were now all white. He stared at the red jade in his hand and muttered, "What kind of background does Tseng Niu have for him to interfere 3 times? At this moment, Wang Lin was sitting cross-legged in the valley. Before him was a war chariot filled with spikes. Wang Lin stared at the war chariot with an unsettled expression. He tossed out the beast trap and the thunder toad landed on the side with a thud. The thunder toad's injuries had already healed, and its gaze toward Wang Lin contained a hint of gratitude. If it wasn't for Wang Lin's help, he would have died to the injuries from before. Wang Lin whispered, "Thunder Toad, I'm going to take away the beast trap. If you wish to stay, then follow me. If you don't, then you may leave, okay?" The thunder toad nodded. Wang Lin formed several seals with both of his hands. The seals landed on the beast trap. A myriad of symbols began to spread out from the bracelet. In the end, a very strange thing happened before Wang Lin. The symbols formed rings with the largest one on the outside. Each ring was smaller than the previous one, and in the center was the beast trap. "Release!" Wang Lin shouted. Suddenly, the symbols began to spin. A sliver of green smoke came out from the beast trap. It moved through the symbols like it was escaping and entered the thunder toad. The thunder toad let out a roar and its eyes sparkled. The symbols didn't disappear but kept spinning. Wang Lin didn't look at the thunder toad. Instead, he looked at the war chariot. His right hand formed a seal and pointed at the chariot. Black mist appeared on the chariot. A pair of eyes could be seen within the mist. A deafening roar came from the chariot and the beast spirit of the chariot appeared. This was the smallest beast spirit among the 3 chariots. It had been sealed by Wang Lin, but now that it was released, it locked onto Wang Lin. Its head had 3 horns, the body of an ox, and the tail of a dragon. There was even a face on the tail. Wang Lin calmly looked at the beast before dripping a drop of blood on the beast trap. Then he pointed at the beast spirit of the chariot. The symbols from the beast trap suddenly shook and turned into a ray of light that began to spin around the beast spirit. The beast spirit let out many roars as it tried to struggle, but the black chains came out of the chariot and locked the beast down. The light formed by the symbols landed on the beast's body and released a golden glow. The roars from the beast became even more vicious. Some of the chains broke, but even more chains appeared to keep the beast completely locked down. In the end, all of the symbols landed on the beast's body and settled there. The beast was no longer struggling, but its eyes were even more vicious. Wang Lin's eyes were still calm. After those symbols were done settling, he whispered, "Return." The symbols on the beast shined brightly. The colors of the symbols changed from golden to black as it flew into the beast trap. When the last symbol disappeared onto the beast trap, a new beast appeared on the bracelet. This beast looked exactly the same as the beast spirit of the war chariot. At the same time, the war chariot turned into a ray of black light and disappeared into the beast trap. Wang Lin took a deep breath before slapping his bag of holding and placing 8 top-quality spirit stones around him. The beast trap quickly flew toward him and wrapped around his right wrist. A force countless times stronger than the one he experienced with the thunder toad suddenly started consuming his spiritual energy. Wang Lin's body immediately began to shrink, and he started to turn into a mummy. However, his eyes were still clear. The 8 top quality spirit stones around him shined brightly. A crazy amount of spiritual energy entered his body and went into the beast trap. This process lasted 3 days. 3 days later, the force slowly started to disappear. Wang Lin's body slowly recovered as well. One of the 8 top quality spirit stones shattered and turned to dust. Wang Lin opened his eyes with a hint of worry. When he looked at the beast trap on his right wrist, his eyes became cold. The suction was powerful enough to use up a top quality spirit stone. God-slaying war chariot. I'll have to find the time to see if you are fitting of that name. Wang Lin pondered for a bit. He didn't put the 7 top quality spirit stones away but kept them on him. From what he knew of the beast trap, it would likely suck spiritual energy from him after every use. It would be best to keep the spirit stones on him just in case. Wang Lin touched the beast trap. Then he stood up and looked at the thunder toad. Throughout these 3 days, the thunder toad hadn't moved at all. It had guarded Wang Lin the entire time. When he saw Wang Lin standing up, the thunder toad picked Wang Lin up with its head, so Wang Lin was now riding on its back. Wang Lin smiled. "Do you want to follow me?" The thunder toad's stomach expanded, and it let out a roar as a reply. "Good. From today onward, I'll treat you the same as the mosquito beast." He slapped his bag of holding and the mosquito beast came out. He hadn't seen the mosquito beast in many years. Seemed to have grown. Its body was now the size of a small hill. Suzaku is a type of bird, so the mountain shaped like a bird really says, "It's shaped like a Suzaku." This will get a bit complicated later on because the person who's the strongest cultivator in the planet has the title of Suzaku. Its giant proboscis looked very threatening. The mosquito beast was very wary of the thunder toad, so it kept on letting out sounds. The thunder toad looked at the mosquito beast with a provoking expression. Wang Lin faintly smiled and jumped down from the thunder toad. He ignored the 2 beasts staring at each other and walked toward the pagoda. Standing in front of it, he clasped his hands, took a deep breath and said, "Senior Junior was asked by Senior Joey to look after you for 1,000 years. The immortal graveyard will be very dangerous, so I would like to ask Senior to lend me a celestial sword." With that, Wang Lin bowed and walked into the pagoda. At the top floor, Wang Lin saw the white-robed female corpse. The female corpse was lying on a bed of celestial jade. There was no movement at all. Beside her were 2 celestial swords, one big and one small, releasing waves of celestial spiritual energy. Looking at the 2 celestial swords, Wang Lin began to ponder. His gaze locked onto the larger sword more than the smaller one. Wang Lin felt like this large sword looked familiar when he first saw it. However, it was too dangerous to really think about it back then. After he came back, he was with Li Muan the whole time, so he didn't have time to think about anything else. Now that he was looking at it after everything was over, that feeling of familiarity was even stronger. "I must have seen this sword somewhere before." Wang Lin pondered for a long time before reaching out to the sword. There wasn't any discomfort as he held the large celestial sword in his hand. This sword could no longer be considered a sword but a rectangular sign. Sign! Wang Lin was startled and began to ponder. After a long time, his eyes lit up and he shouted, "Wealth!" It was wealth. When Wang Lin was in the Hengyu sect, he was given a token from his master to pick out a flying sword. The one he picked was the most ridiculous flying sword in the Hengyu sect. Wealth! Wang Lin walked down the pagoda filled with confusion. He stood outside the pagoda staring at the large sword. Memories from more than 400 years ago played in his mind. Thinking back to the moment when he first saw wealth, he felt very regretful. He could still recall the full golden body sword. However, it didn't shine because of the quality of the sword. It was due to the layer of gold coating the surface. The gold wasn't even used to hide a valuable sword. What was under the gold was the most common kind of iron. Holding the sword in his hand, Wang Lin remembered 2 giant gems on the hilt of wealth. However, the 2 gems had no spiritual energy at all. They were only there for looks. Even the tassels of wealth were made from pieces of gold. Wealth disappeared within the void when Wang Lin's bag of holding was destroyed. If it wasn't for this celestial sword, Wang Lin wouldn't have remembered wealth. However, looking at it now, besides the 2 giant gems and the gold tassels, the 2 swords were shockingly similar. Wang Lin's eyes sparkled. He didn't believe that this was a coincidence. Could it be that the creator of wealth once saw this celestial sword? But that made no sense either. That senior from Zhao must have only been a nascent soul cultivator at most. How could he have gone to the celestial realm and seen the sword that was hidden until the white-robed woman called for it? Wang Lin began to ponder. He began to recall the life of that senior that was recorded on the sign next to wealth. That person was originally useless in the Hengyu sect but was able to save the Hengyu sect from a disaster once. Then he died and left behind this large sword for future disciples. A completely useless person was able to save the Hengyu sect. I didn't think about it too much back then, but thinking about it now, that senior must have had some secret. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He once again looked at the celestial sword in his hand. This celestial sword has already lost its soul, so it's a lot weaker. If I want to use it at its full power, I need a sword soul for it. Thinking about this, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding. Come out, Su Ligua. A pillar of gray smoke shot out from the bag and turned into Su Ligua. After he came out, he pounded his chest. He had a very excited look in his eyes. Su Ligua roared a few times. I'm finally out, haha. At this moment, the thunder toad and the mosquito beast that were staring at each other turned around and looked at Su Ligua. Su Ligua quickly became quiet when he saw the two beasts. Wang Lin's right hand reached out and grabbed Su Ligua. Su Ligua let out a scream as Wang Lin threw him into the celestial sword. The sword suddenly trembled and the golden color on it dimmed. Wang Lin frowned and pointed at his brow. Wandering souls came out one by one and entered the celestial sword. The sword's color darkened again. Soon it became black. Wang Lin pressed his right hand on the sword. After pondering for a while, he muttered to himself, using wandering souls as the sword spirit can only activate a part of the sword's power. If I use a soul devourer, then I should be able to use more of its power. Sadly, I don't have enough time. But I must go capture a soul devourer in the future. Wang Lin stood up and put the sword away. He then touched the pagoda, causing it to immediately shrink. He put it away inside his bag of holding. Then Wang Lin took a breath, put away the thunder toad and mosquito beast, and then disappeared. In the old Zhou's house at the apricot flower village, a woman was looking at a baby girl with a tender gaze. Ru-er, your dad went to get you some ginseng to help nourish your body. I don't know what is wrong with this child for her body to be so weak. The woman was holding the baby while singing a song from their village. The baby girl's breathing was steady. It seemed she had already fallen asleep. After making sure that the baby had completely fallen asleep, the woman put the baby down and kissed her on the forehead before going to the kitchen to prepare food. Just as the woman left, another person appeared in the room. Wang Lin stared at the baby girl with tenderness in his eyes. His hand trembled as he gently touched the baby and whispered, Wan Er. I forgot what day, month, and year it was that we met outside the Sea of Devils, but I remember your smiling yet sad expression toward me. The baby girl's eyelashes trembled as her clear eyes opened and silently stared at Wang Lin. Because her nascent soul was asleep, the body was too weak to hold any of her memories. Although even though she couldn't remember his name, his voice, or his appearance, the feeling of him was something forever engraved in her. The baby girl's gaze toward Wang Lin was no longer clear but filled with confusion. Even she didn't notice the tear that fell from eye. Wang Lin's heart ached as he stared at the baby girl. You gave me one teardrop and I was able to see everything in your heart. Wang Lin looked at the baby girl for a very long time. Time passed by, but she was still holding her gaze. I'll come to pick you up, Wang Lin softly whispered before leaving. Just as he left, water filled the baby girl's eyes and she began to cry. The woman who was cooking in the other room quickly came into the room, picked up the baby girl, and started to comfort her. The baby girl's cry soon stopped, but she was still looking toward outside the room. Her eyes are filled with confusion. XIAN sat down cross-legged in the cave while he guarded the baby girl. He had gotten used to being in half-closed door cultivation for the last year. Half a year ago, Yufei messaged him to switch, but he rejected the offer. After XIAN entered the cultivation world, he hadn't experienced anything like what he had experienced in this last year. He had his divine sense spread out across the whole village every day. He knew every household and every person in the village. This feeling was very mysterious. In fact, XIAN had recently given up cultivating and had immersed himself in the mortal world. Wang Lin walked into the cave. When he saw XIAN, His eyes suddenly became focused. XIAN quickly stood up to greet Wang Lin. Wang Lin said, "Not bad compared to Lu Fei. All you have to do is keep this up and you can reach the soul formation stage. However, remember that you have to reach the peak of the late stage of nascent soul first." XIAN was startled. He quickly nodded. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before taking out a time domain carving. He said, "I'm giving this to you. Study it well." XIAN quietly stared at the wooden carving. Wang Lin sat on top of the mosquito beast and flew toward the immortal graveyard. At this moment, inside the Sea of Devils, there was something stirring within the chaotic broken stars. In the Sea of Blood inside the land of the ancient god, the Sea of Blood looked very different from before. Most of the pillars were gone. Only the one XIAN was sitting on was left. There were less than 100 cultivators inside the Sea of Blood. Each of them had a red splinter on their forehead. All of them were silently cultivating. Among these people, there were a lot of people that Wang Lin was familiar with, such as Ancient Emperor. Each of them were releasing a demonic aura that smelled like blood. As they cultivated, the blood in the blood sea slowly entered their bodies. On the pillar that XIAN was sitting on sat a man with long red hair. His head was down. On the ground below him there were countless words carved by his fingernails. It was just one word carved over and over again. Wang Lin. This red-haired man was XIAN, the one who obtained the inheritance of strength from the ancient god. His hair covered his face, but his eyes filled with hatred were visible. Wang Lin, the lifespan of the ancient god's body is reaching its limit. Once that happens, I will be able to escape from here. Wang Lin, you better not die. Continue keeping that inheritance of knowledge safe for me. The immortal graveyard was a mountain range surrounded by thick, black fog. It was very quiet inside the mountain range and there were no signs of life. This kind of silence was too scary. Deep inside the mountain range was a giant hole. Old man whose group of 6 sat outside this hole. Compared to the hole, they looked very insignificant. Old man who sat cross-legged. He had been waiting here for almost 1 month. Although they had encountered no dangers along the way, something was making his skin crawl during the trip. As a soul formation cultivator, he didn't believe that this kind of feeling would occur for no reason. Now that he was near the hole, that feeling was even stronger. Old man who thought, adding fellow cultivator Wang, there will be 3 soul formation cultivators. As long as we don't go in too deep, there shouldn't be an issue. Many years ago, he came here and went to the 3rd floor. Although there were many dangers, he was able to obtain the thing he was looking for, and then he left. This was why he was willing to come here. However, old man who was starting to regret it right now. His expression gradually darkened as he looked at the hole before him. Old man who turned to the white-veiled woman next to him. XIAN, are you sure the reincarnation tree is on the 3rd floor? The white-veiled woman nodded and whispered, I remember clearly that back when my father took me there, I saw a wilted reincarnation tree. However, his cultivation wasn't strong enough, so we left. Old man who pondered. The 3rd floor wasn't too dangerous. It should be safe as long as they don't go to the 4th floor. Also, the reincarnation tree had wilted, so there would probably be no savages guarding it. He didn't tell Wang Lin about any of these things in detail. Old man who turned and faced the hole. Just at this moment, a sonic boom came from the distance, attracting everyone's attention. They saw a beast the size of a hill suddenly appear before them. On the back of the beast was a young man in white. This person was Wang Lin. Old man who revealed a happy expression as he said, Since Brother Wang came, then our trip will succeed for sure. Wang Lin jumped off the mosquito. He smiled at everyone and said, I made everyone wait. I encountered some small problems along the way. Oh really? Old man whose eyes became focused. Wang Lin waved his right hand and threw a head on the ground. This head had very dark skin like it was covered in dirt. The eyes were filled with rage and there was a vine-like tattoo on his face. Savages. Old man whose expression changed. Wang Lin said, I found this person following me after I entered the immortal graveyard. He was trying to ambush me. Old man who stepped forth and pointed at the head's brow. The tattoo on the head began to slowly gather on its forehead until it formed the image of a half-leaf. Old man whose face was gloomy as he said, He is not a savage but a cultivator who was refined by the savages. Oh, Wang Lin looked at the head. Su Luo hesitated before asking, "Ancestor, how did you know? Could it be the leaf?" Not only him, but everyone else except the white-veiled woman revealed a look of confusion. Old man whose expression was serious as he pointed at the leaf on the head's forehead and said, "I haven't seen a real savage before, but I have read some ancient texts that only someone with at least 3 leaves has blood pure enough to be a real savage. The rest are formed by refining cultivators. However, even these kinds of savages shouldn't appear here. They should only start appearing on the 2nd floor." An invisible pressure appeared in everyone's heart as they looked at the head on the ground. Old man who hesitated for a bit before his eyes lit up and he said, "Brother Wang, we have to take risks to get riches. Let us go down." Wang Lin pondered for a bit and then nodded. Old man who jumped into the hole first, followed by Wang Lin and then everyone else. This hole was very deep. As Wang Lin fell, he could see vine-like vegetation growing on the walls. It didn't take long for them to land on the ground. This was a plain-like area, but the ground was black, the sky was black, and the surroundings were completely silent. Although it was very dim here, it didn't obstruct a cultivator's eyesight at all. Wang Lin crouched down and grabbed a handful of dirt. The dirt here was very hard, like it was metal. Old man who said, "The 1st floor is normally safe, but since there were savages outside, we must be careful here." Wang Lin spread out his divine sense. This place was very large, so his divine sense couldn't cover it all. Old man Hu and XIAN talked for a bit to confirm that the entrance to the next floor was to the east before they all headed east. Along the way, Qiu Siping and company flew closely together and were constantly on guard. Only Wang Lin, Old man Hu, and the black-robed old man were still calm. As for the white-veiled woman, she had been in a daze since she arrived here, as if she was recalling something. The 7 of them flew for a while before Wang Lin's eyes suddenly lit up and he looked at something behind them. He saw a dark light chasing after them. When the light got close, it dissipated and turned into a savage with black hair. He was wearing a beast skin. There were some black streak marks on the savage's arms and legs. He reached out and tried to grab Su Luo. Su Luo's expression changed. He opened his mouth and spat out a ray of light. There was a flying sword inside that ray of light and it lunged toward the savage. The savage made a strange movement and dodged the sword as his hand swiped down. Su Luo quickly backed up. 5 straight rips appeared on his clothes, revealing something shiny underneath them. He was wearing armor under the clothes. After finishing the attack, the savage quickly retreated. Old man Hu snorted, "Stay here." He didn't move but reached out with his right hand. The savage let out a strange roar as the marks on his arms and legs began to move. Black smoke came out from the marks and entered his body. Then he swung his arm. The black smoke gathered on his fist and then a punch was thrown out. Old man Hu's expression remained calm, but a hint of killing intent appeared in his eyes. He clenched his fist and the savage's right hand was crushed into a bloody pulp. The savage let out a miserable scream and quickly retreated. Old man Hu's right finger pointed at the savage and shot out a ray of spiritual energy. The spiritual energy landed on the savage's chest, causing the savage to fall over. Old man Hu stepped up and pointed at the savage's forehead. The marks on the savage's body gathered on his forehead and a complete leaf appeared. Old man Hu said, "It looks like some changes we don't know of has occurred inside this immortal graveyard. These one-leaf savages didn't appear until the 2nd floor before." Su Luo touched his chest and revealed a hint of fear. To be able to dodge a flying sword, this savage was too fast. If he wasn't wearing this armor, the savage would have ripped his chest open. 3 days later, the 7 of them arrived at the entrance to the 2nd floor. Along the way, they had encountered a total of 9 savages. These savages had appeared out of thin air. Even with their divine senses spread out, it was impossible to notice them until they had appeared. Of the 9 savages, they were all one-leaf savages besides the last one. The last savage appeared near the entrance to the 2nd floor. This savage had more tattoos than the rest, especially on his right arm, which was covered in tattoos. These tattoos looked like runes to Wang Lin. After killing this savage, Wang Lin found 2 leaves on his forehead. This person's strength was like that of a late-stage core formation cultivators. The 2nd floor of the immortal graveyard was not very different from the 1st floor. It was still very dark here. However, there was an aura that would make one feel very irritated. This aura had no effect on Wang Lin, but it had a big effect on Su Luo and company. Wang Lin was very confused as to why old man who brought Su Luo and the woman here. They were only at the core formation stage, so any mistake could get them killed. Wang Lin didn't ask much about this. With his personality, unless it was pretty effortless to help, he wouldn't do anything risky to save them. On the second floor, they would occasionally spot beast bones and even some rotting corpses of beasts. They were all very different from the ones in the Sea of Devils. Wang Lin didn't recognize any of them. Just as they entered the second floor, Wang Lin was startled because a dark light appeared 100 feet from them. The light didn't try to get any closer but turned into a savage. This savage looked very different from the ones on the first floor. More than 1/4 of his body was covered in black flowery tattoos. His eyes were also not red but very clear. However, if one looked closely, they would see a mysterious light in them. This savage was not the same type as the ones from the first floor. The ones from the first floor, even the two-leaf one, all had red eyes and were completely insane. They would attack them even when they knew the difference in strength. However, this person didn't get close but gloomily looked at them from 100 feet away. He took a few extra looks at the white-veiled woman. The white-veiled woman suddenly said, "Savage. A real savage." The marks on his body have already reached the level of a 3-leaf, which is the same as a nascent soul cultivator. That savage stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. He let out a scream and soon dozens of black lights appeared. They turned into savages with tattoos on their arms and legs. They all jumped at Wang Lin and company. The 3-leaf savage sneered as he coldly looked at the scene. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He quickly went around those savages and charged toward the 3-leaf savage. The 3-leaf savage didn't panic at all. He rubbed the marks on his body and a beast's skin appeared in his hand. A complex chant came out of this person's mouth and the beast's skin suddenly turned into a ball of fire that smashed toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's body was caught by the fire. Another beast's skin appeared in the 3-leaf savage's hand. He bit the tip of his finger, drew a few lines of blood on the beast's skin, and then threw it out again. The fire suddenly became fiercer. However, just at this moment Wang Lin walked out of the ball of fire. The fire couldn't even get close to him. As Wang Lin walked out, the ball of fire grew smaller and smaller until it went out. The 3-leaf savage was stunned, so he quickly retreated by turning into a black light. How could Wang Lin let him escape? He quickly teleported to catch up. As for the rest of the savages that attacked them, they had all been killed by old man who with just a wave of his sleeve. Wang Lin came back with the head of the 3-leaf savage and threw it on the ground. He coldly looked at the white-veiled woman and said, "Fellow cultivator XIAN, since you were able to recognize the rank of this savage, please tell us everything you know." The white-veiled woman nodded and said, "It is not that I didn't want to say it before, but after coming in here, I seem to have remembered some things. The savages here are different from us cultivators. They are split into 2 types, shamans and warriors. That person is a 3-leaf shaman. Their power comes from the black tattoos on their bodies. The more tattoos they have, the stronger they are. As for these tattoos, they are made from the blood of demonic beasts, thus they obtain the power of these beasts." Just at this moment, a sonic boom came from the distance. A black light quickly arrived from the distance and turned into a giant face. The eyes of that face quickly locked onto the head on the ground. Then the face sucked and the head began to move like it was alive. Soon the head was sucked in by the face. Old man who snorted. He was about to move up when his expression suddenly changed. Wang Lin's expression was also very ugly. In the distance there were 5 black lights. They had also turned into giant faces that coldly stared at them. The white-veiled woman's voice trembled. "These are 5-leaf shamans. They're the same as soul formation cultivators. Everyone, split up and meet at the entrance to the 3rd floor. The entrance is at the northern end." Old man who said this very quickly before grabbing Su Luo and the woman. He quickly escaped and Qiu Siping quickly followed. Wang Lin didn't say anything as he turned and left. Seeing everyone leaving, the faces split up, chasing everyone. The one chasing Wang Lin was the one that arrived first. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. After flying for a while, he stopped and turned to face the face that was chasing him. He slapped his bag of holding and the restriction flag appeared in his hand. He waved the flag and a large cloud of restriction gas surrounded his body. At the same time, the thunder toad flew out of the bag of holding with its stomach expanded. It opened its mouth toward the savage shaman and a ball of lightning charged out with a sonic boom. The giant face's eyes revealed a mysterious light as dark mass gathered in front of him, forming a giant shield. The ball of lightning collided with the shield. Bang! The shield trembled and cracks appeared. More black mass quickly gathered on the shield. After the ball of light disappeared, the black mass condensed even more and a person walked out of it. This person was middle-aged with his hair casually hanging behind him. More than half of his body was covered in tattoos, but the tattoos weren't directly on his body. They were floating slightly above his skin. The tattoos looked very messy. It was clear that more than one layer of tattoos was laid down. His face was the same. Half of his face was covered in tattoos. The middle-aged man slowly said, "Invaders of this planet, you guys broke the agreement. 100 years haven't passed yet, so anyone who enters will die." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He couldn't find any spiritual energy in this person's body, but the tattoos gave him a sense of danger. The middle-aged man's right hand swiped the tattoos on his body. The tattoos flew off his body and began to rapidly spin around his right arm. The middle-aged man's left hand quickly moved and pointed at some of the tattoos on his right arm. The tattoos that were hit began to shine and quickly spread out. The tattoos encircled an area about 100 feet in diameter. Then the tattoos suddenly closed in and charged toward Wang Lin. The restriction gas around Wang Lin quickly turned into dragons and charged at the tattoos. Bang! 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 A series of explosions suddenly began. Every time the restriction gas and a tattoo collided, they would both disappear. "What's this?" The middle-aged man frowned. He grabbed a tattoo, turned it into a beast's skin in his hand and threw it out. This beast's skin quickly began to burn, causing the speed of the flying tattoos to increase. After a series of explosions, Wang Lin had less restriction gas. Wang Lin was still calm. He was watching the tattoos. His eyes lit up and he thought, "So these savages use these tattoos to attack. Although there is no spiritual energy within the tattoos, there is some other mysterious power inside." After seeing the savage throw the beast's skin, a hint of killing intent appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. He slapped his bag of holding and a giant celestial sword appeared before him. He grabbed the celestial sword, let out a roar and swung it down. A bang like the sky was splitting open could be heard and a ray of black light swung down. The middle-aged man's expression changed greatly as he quickly moved his hand. The tattoos returned to him and quickly formed many shields. However, the moment the celestial sword swung down, the black light passed by and all of the shields shattered. The middle-aged man let out a scream. Without any hesitation, he turned into a black mass. The black mass turned into a face that quickly retreated, but the black light still reached the black mass. A miserable scream came from within it. It slowed down for a bit, but it quickly sped up again. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He didn't chase. His gaze fell on the thunder toad. The power of the sword wasn't able to kill him. That swing was something most late-stage soul formation cultivators couldn't block without a good defensive treasure. That five-leaf savage is powerful. The thunder toad jumped into the air and its stomach expanded. It then spat out a ball of lightning at the fleeing black mass. The ball of lightning shot out and entered the black mass. Bang! An earth-shattering roar came from the black mass. The black mass dissipated and the face inside disappeared as well. Wang Lin landed along with the thunder toad. The smell of blood was spreading from where the explosion happened. The middle-aged man was killed by the ball of lightning. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before putting away the thunder toad. He flew north with his divine sense spread out. Several hours later, his expression suddenly changed as he looked to his right. Then he quickly moved like a meteor. There were two savages there. One of them had white hair and, of its body was covered in tattoos. Beside him was a young man. The young man only had, of his body covered in tattoos. Before the two of them was a puddle of mud. Bubbles would occasionally appear and then pop. The two of them immediately noticed Wang Lin. The young man was startled. He looked at the old man beside him and didn't speak. The old man's eyes were clear. He took one look at Wang Lin and no longer bothered with him as he looked toward the mud puddle. Just at this moment, a dragon-like creature jumped out of the mud and charged toward the old man. The old man's expression remained calm as he slapped the tattoos on his body with his right hand. The tattoos on his body quickly moved and became a large knife in his right hand. Holding the large knife, the old man jumped forward and slashed at the dragon. The dragon moved its head, dodging the knife, and smashed into the old man. The moment the dragon hit the old man's body exploded into countless tattoos that spread out. Wang Lin's eyes became serious. All of the techniques he saw the savages use were very different from cultivators. The old man's body had become countless tattoos, and they all entered the dragon's body. The dragon roared in pain. Its large body charged out of the mud puddle and splashed around a large amount of mud. The young savage dodged the mud and looked at the dragon with a serious expression. Soon the dragon became weak. Shortly after, countless tattoos came out of its body to form the old man again. It was as if the dragon had given birth to the old man. When the last tattoo returned to his body, he jumped down from the dragon and sliced its head. A large amount of blood sprayed out from the dragon's head. The young man cheered and ran forward. He covered himself in fresh blood and his tattoos moved as if they were alive. Shortly after, the young man sat down to cultivate and then began to draw tattoos according to the ones on his body. Soon the old tattoos were replaced by new ones. Seeing this, Wang Lin suddenly thought of one person he thought back to when he took Tung Li's foundation, when he saw that blue-skinned freak. The tattoos on the young man's body released a ghostly light and began to shine brighter. After a while, the light dimmed. The tattoos moved around and covered more of the young man's body. The young man's eyes were filled with excitement as he said something to the old man in a strange language. After hearing this strange language, Wang Lin was sure that that freak from back then was related to them because his language was the same as this. The savage elder nodded. He rubbed the young man's head and then looked at Wang Lin. He then looked at the beast trap on Wang Lin's wrist. He put his hand over his chest, bowed and said, "Hello, outsider. I'm Camel of the Forsaken Immortal clan, 6-leaf shaman." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He clasped his hands and said, "Hello. I'm Wang Lin, Soul Formation Cultivator." The old man looked at Wang Lin and said, "It is not yet time for the 100-year contract. Every cultivator who enters must die. However, since you didn't take this chance to attack us when my disciple was absorbing the blood, I won't make it hard on you. As long as you don't go to the 3rd floor and leave now, there is still a chance for you to live." "Oh really?" Wang Lin's eyes lit up. The old man said, "Even if your companions make it to the 3rd floor, they won't make it out alive. There are 7-leaf shamans from my tribe on the 3rd floor. They are the same as soul transformation cultivators." Wang Lin pondered and then said, "Many thanks." With that, he pointed at the young man and said, "He used the blood from the beast to make tattoos just now. Is that the secret technique of your Forsaken Immortal clan?" The old man nodded and said, "That is correct. My Forsaken Immortal clan uses the tattoos to absorb the powers from these beasts. The stronger the beast, the more power we gain." Wang Lin looked at the old man, clasped his hands and disappeared. That young man stared at the direction where Wang Lin disappeared. A trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes and then he said, "Master, why didn't you capture him and turn him into the chief?" The old man shook his head. "Your tattoo's power is still too weak to see the tattoo soul behind him. Someone who can kill a 5-leaf shaman without getting hurt is not someone I have confidence in capturing. Also, if we were to start fighting, you would be in danger." The killing intent in the young man's eyes became even stronger. "I'm not afraid of death. Death is only returning to the tattoos." The old man rubbed the young man's head with a gentle gaze in his eyes and said, "Our tribe is not strong enough. There are other more powerful tribes that will deal with him. I also felt a powerful soul force from the bronze bracelet on his wrist, so it is best to not mess with him." The young man nodded and said, "One day we will kill our way out and kick these outsiders from this planet." The old man looked toward where Wang Lin had disappeared. He let out a sigh and didn't say anything else. Wang Lin flew through the 2nd floor. After pondering a bit, he flew toward the entrance to the 3rd floor instead of leaving. His goal this trip was the reincarnation fruit. If he were to just leave like this, he would feel very frustrated. Wang Lin flew very fast and arrived at the northern end of the second floor. From far away, he was able to see the entrance to the next floor. This place was covered in bodies and smelled like blood. This was combined with an irritating aura that seemed like a killing intent-like aura. Old man who sat down cross-legged near the entrance. His eyes were closed and his face was filled with pain. Su Lua was behind him looking like a mess. There were cuts all over his armor and some were even bleeding. The woman's hair was a mess and there were 3 lines on her face. It was like she had been clawed by a beast. Qiu Siping was also among them. Although he was better than those 2, his breathing was unstable. He was clearly injured. The 3 of them were carefully looking at old man who with fear in their eyes. Beside them was a giant beast that looked like a black turtle. It was old man whose mount. There were many wounds on this beast. It carefully observed its surroundings with its vicious eyes and would occasionally let out a few threatening growls. Wang Lin's arrival caught the attention of the beast. The beast turned its vicious gaze toward Wang Lin and growled in a threatening manner. Soon after, it stood up and roared at Wang Lin. Wang Lin frowned. At this moment, Qiu Siping and company saw Wang Lin. They all revealed joyous expressions, but none of them dared to move. Wang Lin asked, "What is the matter?" Qiu Siping looked at Old Man Hu and said, "Brother Wang, along the way, Old Man Hu killed 2 5-leaf shamans. Then he killed another one at the entrance. However, this one seemed to have used a technique on Old Man Hu to make his mind unclear." Wang Lin frowned even harder and walked forward. The turtle immediately let out a roar and took a deep breath. A powerful suction force sucked in air from all directions and a ball of air was formed before the turtle. The turtle shot the ball of air toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin snorted. He slapped his bag of holding and the thunder toad and mosquito beast immediately flew out. Without the need for orders, the thunder toad spat out a ball of lightning that collided with the ball of air. With a bang, a shockwave spread out. The mosquito beast let out a roar, went around the shockwave, and lunged toward the turtle with its sharp mouth. After the collision, Old Man Hu opened his eyes. His eyes were bloodshot and there were tattoos covering the whites of his eyes. After he saw Wang Lin, he jumped on him like a mad beast. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He slapped his bag of holding and took out the restriction flag. Restriction gas appeared and formed a cage that trapped Old Man Hu. Old Man Hu's eyes became even redder. He swiped his hand to try to break the cage. Wang Lin pointed forward and said, "Trap!" More restriction gas quickly came out and reinforced the cage. Every time Old Man Hu tore one layer off, more layers were added on. Wang Lin shouted, "Fellow cultivator who, still not sober yet?" His voice was like thunder. It went through the restriction gas and entered Old Man Hu's ears. Old Man Hu's hand immediately stopped, but just at this moment, the tattoo in his eyes shined, causing Old Man Hu's eyes to become red again. However, there was something mysterious about his eyes this time. "Brother Wang, the shaman I killed advanced to the 6th leaf stage right before his death and cast a curse on me to try to refine me into a puppet. This technique is very tyrannical. If we were in the Sea of Devils, I would only need a few years to remove this curse. However, with this irritating aura here, I'm unable to calm myself down. This curse will only break at the moment of a life or death crisis. So Brother Wang, attack now." His body was trembling. It looked like he was struggling to keep control. Wang Lin's eyes became focused as he touched his bag of holding. The black celestial sword appeared in his hand. After having the wandering souls enter the sword, even people who had seen the sword before would have trouble recognizing it. With the celestial sword in his hand, he stared at Old Man Hu trapped inside the restriction gas and sliced down. The celestial sword glowed black and seemed to have extended in length as it sliced down. The restriction gas quickly got out of the way as the black light passed by, leaving Old Man Hu in the open. The tattoos in his eyes were flashing rapidly. In almost a blink of an eye, the tattoos in Old Man Hu's eyes disappeared and then a drop of blood came out of his forehead, went down his nose and fell to the ground. The celestial sword stopped 3 inches above Old Man Hu's head. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He waved his hand and the celestial sword disappeared. Without a word, Old Man Hu took out a bottle of pills. After taking a few deep breaths, he sat down to cultivate. Wang Lin raised his head and looked into the distance while he waited for Old Man Hu to cultivate. The fear in Qiu Siping and company's eyes had reached its limit, so none of them dared to move. Even the turtle was terrified and no longer dared to growl. The mosquito beast took this opportunity to poke into the turtle's neck to viciously suck out some blood. Only then was he satisfied enough to return to the thunder toad's side. Half an hour later, Old Man Who opened his eyes. His eyes were clear now. He got up, clasped his hands and said, "Thank you, Brother Wang." Although he looked calm, he now dreaded Wang Lin even more in his heart. If Wang Lin's sword had gone down 3 more inches, he would have died on the spot. Although this was because he wasn't resisting or using any magic treasures, that feeling of life and death was engraved into his heart. Old Man Who thought, "I seems fame doesn't lie. It is no wonder the named Sangyo was able to become so famous. He is indeed very powerful." Wang Lin smiled and said, "No problem." One day later, the white-veiled woman and black-cloaked old man still hadn't arrived. After talking with Wang Lin, they decided to not wait any longer. Although Old Man Who didn't know the exact location of the reincarnation tree, he roughly knew where it was, so they decided that they might as well search and wait at the same time. Wang Lin nodded in agreement. Everyone entered the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor was a red world. The dirt had some mysterious property that let it release a red glow. Thus, when one looked at the 3rd floor, everything was red. Old Man Who said in a serious tone, "The immortal graveyard is very dangerous right now. If the 2nd floor had 5 leaf shamans, the 3rd floor might even have 6 leaf shamans. We have to travel quickly and leave immediately after we find the reincarnation tree." Then he looked at Wang Lin and continued, "Fellow cultivator Wang, to tell you the truth, Su Luo and Yun Meng are keys to making the reincarnation fruit appear. Each of them have over 100 years of life left. By giving up 60 years, they can make the reincarnation fruit grow. This is why I brought them here. Later, each of us will take one of them and quickly find the reincarnation tree." Qiu Siping secretly complained but didn't dare to say anything. He knew that he was nothing in Old Man Who's eyes. Later on, he would just have to do his best to keep up, because if he is left behind, he will definitely die. After Old Man Who finished speaking, he grabbed Su Luo and teleported to the west. Qiu Siping clenched his teeth and quickly followed with a teleport as well. The only one left was the beautiful Yun Meng. She walked up to Wang Lin and whispered, "Many thanks, Senior." Wang Lin remained calm. He grabbed her and felt her slim waist. He still remained calm and said, "Close your eyes." The woman quickly closed her eyes, but her face was slightly red. She had never been this close to a man before. Wang Lin's scent entered her nose, causing her face to become even redder. After grabbing her, Wang Lin took a step and disappeared. The woman felt the wind blowing by her ears like a knife along with waves of spiritual energy, but the wind soon disappeared. The woman's eyelashes trembled as she opened her eyes. She saw a gentle blue light covering her body, protecting her from the raging wind. She secretly raised her head to look at Wang Lin. Although he wasn't handsome, there was a mysterious aura around him. This was a mysterious change that happened to all soul formation cultivators. This change depended on the domain they obtained. While flying, Wang Lin noticed the woman's gaze, but he didn't look down. His eyes were focused on Qiu Siping. The distance between him and Old Man Who kept on widening. With Qiu Siping's cultivation, there was no way for him to keep up with a soul formation cultivator. There was a trace of anxiety in Qiu Siping's eyes. When he saw Wang Lin catching up, he quickly said, "Brother Wang, help me, help me. I'm willing to give you treasures in exchange." Wang Lin originally didn't want to bother with him. After all, they weren't that familiar with each other. However, when he heard treasures, he recalled back to when he followed Qiu Siping to that underground cave. That cave was filled with ancient texts, things a normal person wouldn't have. He slapped his bag of holding and the mosquito beast flew out. After Wang Lin gave it a command, the mosquito beast put Qiu Siping on its back. However, there was a hint of dissatisfaction in its eyes. It clearly didn't think Qiu Siping was worthy of sitting on its back. Qiu Siping let out a sigh of relief. Although the mosquito beast was slower than a soul formation cultivator, it was able to just barely keep up. He quickly took out a pair of bells from his bag of holding and said, "Brother Wang, I obtained this by accident. It was inside a beast. It should be a treasure from ancient times, but my cultivation level is too low to fully understand it. However, I swear that this treasure is not ordinary. I hope that Brother Wang allows me to cultivate under the reincarnation tree later." With that, he threw the bells toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin caught the bells and found that there was a restriction on the bells. Until he breaks the restriction, he won't be able to get a better look. He didn't have time for this, so he put it away. Just at this moment, 2 rays of black light came from the distance. They turned into 2 giant faces. One went toward Old Man Hu while the other one went toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He waved his right hand and the celestial sword quickly appeared in his grasp. He swung in the air and a ray of sword energy quickly slashed down on the face. The swing didn't even make Wang Lin pause. Instead, he started moving even faster. A large amount of black gas gathered in front of the face to form a big tattoo to block against the sword energy. The tattoo collided with the sword energy with a bang. The tattoo shattered and the sword energy dissipated. A person walked out of the resulting smoke. His hair was white, his eyes were gloomy, and on his right eye there was a fresh wound that was bleeding. He touched his wound, licked his finger, and then chased after Wang Lin. Wang Lin frowned. He was only injured and didn't die. That means he must be a 6-leaf savage, which is about as powerful as a late-stage soul formation cultivator. Old Man Hu was ahead of him, was in a sorry state. He had to stop and start exchanging moves with the old woman that came out of the face. He had to protect Su Luo while fighting her, but he was only at the mid-stage of soul formation, so he was constantly being pushed back and was met with many dangers. Turtle Beast! After Old Man Hu shouted, the giant turtle suddenly appeared and started fighting the old woman along with Old Man Hu. The moment the old woman saw the turtle beast, her eyes lit up. She gave up on fighting Old Man Hu and charged toward the turtle beast instead. The white-haired old man that was chasing Wang Lin also looked toward the turtle beast with greed in his eyes. He looked at the old woman before ditching Wang Lin and charged toward the turtle beast. In his eyes, compared to chasing after an outsider, it was better to go after that beast's blood to make his tattoos even stronger. As for the mosquito beast, it was ignored by both of them. To them, the mosquito beast had no value. Wang Lin quickly passed Old Man Hu and shouted, "Fellow cultivator Hu, don't hesitate. There won't just be 2 savages here. If we fight any longer, more will arrive. Let's go." Old Man Hu stared at the turtle beast being attacked by the 2 savages. His eyes were filled with reluctance. However, that reluctance was suppressed by him as he quickly flew away. He had no choice when he saw 3 more rays of black light quickly flying toward their location. Old Man Hu said, "West, the reincarnation tree is to the west." The 3rd floor was a lot smaller than the first 2 floors. After they arrived at the western end, they spread out their divine senses. Old Man Hu's eyes suddenly became focused. "It's over there." Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and saw the already wilted tree Old Man Hu was talking about. This tree wasn't very large. It was only as thick as a person's arm. The tree was all by itself and there were no leaves on it. It looked no different from any other tree. However, it was the only tree in the 3rd floor. Old Man Hu stood under the tree and said with a heavy voice, "I have been here before and have never seen any tree on the 3rd floor. If it wasn't for XIAN's jade, I really wouldn't have believed that there was a reincarnation tree here." Qiu Siping finally arrived as well. When they got close, the mosquito beast threw him to the ground and returned to Wang Lin's side. Qiu Siping didn't mind. He teleported next to the tree. He was very excited and was about to sit down to cultivate under the tree when Old Man Hu looked at him and frowned. Qiu Siping's heart trembled and then he quickly looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin slowly said, "Let him cultivate. Cultivating is a heaven-defying act to begin with, and since he had the fate to arrive here, we shouldn't interfere." Old Man Hu didn't speak but looked toward Su Luo and Yun Meng. The 2 of them quickly went under the tree and sat down on either side of it. Qiu Siping looked at Wang Lin with gratitude in his eyes before quickly focusing on cultivating. He knew that time was short. Whether or not he would be able to reach the soul formation stage in the future all depended on the results of today. Old Man Hu said, "Brother Wang, Su Luo and Yun Meng will need 3 hours to make the reincarnation tree bear fruit. We'll have to guard them during that time." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he said, "I wonder how many reincarnation fruits will appear." Old Man Hu looked at Wang Lin. He pondered for a bit and said, "There should be at least 2. If it is 2, we will each get 1, but if there are 3, then I'll have to take the extra one. After all, it is my treasure refining pavilion's people who are giving up their lives. I hope Brother Wang understands. Wang Lin pointed at the reincarnation tree and said, "That is fine, but the branches of the reincarnation tree belong to me." Old man Hu laughed. "Haha, no problem." He secretly sneered. This reincarnation tree was already wilted. It will be useless after being forced to bear fruit, so there was no problem in giving it to Wang Lin. Wang Lin nodded. He took a step forward and grabbed a branch. Old man Hu's expression changed as he shouted, "Fellow cultivator Wang, what are you doing?" Wang Lin looked at Old man Hu and said, "Since this branches belong to me, why does it matter if I take some now?" Old man Hu was startled. He was about to speak when Wang Lin broke off a large section. He put away the branch inside his bag of holding and sat down to cultivate. Old man Hu pondered a bit. Thinking about Wang Lin's fame and that sword, he didn't say anything. Instead, he sat down and smiled. "Brother Wang, please don't misunderstand. If you just take a part of it, that is fine, but it might result in fewer reincarnation fruits." Wang Lin looked at Old man Hu but didn't speak. His hands moved, causing restrictions to appear. The restrictions landed nearby. Wang Lin's hands gradually moved faster, creating more restrictions. Old man Hu's eyes lit up. After pondering a bit, he took out 16 small flags and scattered them. After they landed, the flags emitted purple lights as if they were calling out to each other. The restrictions kept on coming out of Wang Lin's hand. After 99 restrictions were placed, he took out the restriction flag, which turned into a cloud of black fog. The fog quickly surrounded the area. Mysterious. Old man Hu's eyes lit up as he slapped his bag of holding. 5 black sickles appeared in front of him. There was a powerful smell of blood coming from the sickles. When the sickles appeared, the countless souls trapped inside them tried to escape. Old man Hu waved his hand and the 5 black sickles sank into the black fog. Time slowly passed. The 3rd floor was completely quiet. There was a milky white aura going from Su Luo's and Yunmeng's heads into the reincarnation tree. Their faces changed between white and red. They seemed to be in some pain. As time passed, the milky white aura became even thicker above their heads. But the reincarnation tree didn't change at all. The white aura going into the reincarnation tree didn't seem to have done anything. Even when checking with one's divine sense, one wouldn't find where that white aura was going. Su Luo's appearance no longer remained young. He slowly aged. Wrinkles appeared on his forehead and his black hair had turned gray. Young Meng was the same. Her cute and young face gradually turned into that of a grown woman's. However, her beauty not decrease. She gained the charm of a mature woman. Time slowly passed. Su Luo and Yun Meng became even older. Their skin lost their luster, and it looked like their lives were disappearing along with the white aura. 3 yellow dots eventually appeared at the top of the reincarnation tree. The 3 yellow dots became brighter and brighter like they contained an endless supply of this mysterious power. Old man Hu's eyes lit up and he said, 3 reincarnation fruits. Just at this moment, a blinding yellow light appeared from the reincarnation tree. A pillar of yellow light shot into the sky. The yellow light broke through the clouds of the 3rd floor and created a yellow ring that spread out. The longer the pillar of light held up, the wider the ring expanded. The ring of yellow light was about 1,000 feet wide, so everyone on the 3rd floor would notice it. More rings of yellow light appeared. Lines extended from the rings, connecting them to each other until they reached the pillar. This made the pillar look like a giant tree trunk. Then more lines extended off the rings, forming branches and leaves until there was a large tree that pierced into the sky. A giant reincarnation tree that looked like it was holding up the sky on the 3rd floor suddenly appeared before everyone. This wasn't a real tree but an illusion. However, the appearance of this illusion caused every savage in the area to stop what they were doing and look at the tree before madly rushing toward it. Wang Lin raised his head. His heart sank. This tree would definitely attract the attention of all the savages here. A big battle was coming. Should he leave now and not wait for the reincarnation fruit, or wait for the reincarnation fruit and fight? Wang Lin pondered for a bit and then his eyes sparkled. Just at this moment, 8 rays of black light arrived in the horizon and turned into 8 old men. They quickly activated the power of their tattoos and charged toward the people under the tree. The outermost restrictions set by Wang Lin activated, forming a turtle shell-shaped shield that covered 300 feet of the tree. The power of the 8 old men smashed into the shield, causing a huge explosion. Bang! Bang! Under the continuous attacks, the restrictions were destroyed layer by layer. Old Man Who formed a seal and shot out a few rays of spiritual energy. The energy entered the 16 flags and then 16 ghost-like things flew out of them. These 16 ghosts gathered together to form a black storm. Power surged through the storm and slammed into the 8 people attacking the formation, knocking them back several meters. Old Man Who took a deep breath. He closed his eyes and quickly activated the technique in his hand. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and then he pointed at the 8 of them. The remaining restrictions formed a giant hand that reached toward them. One of the 8 was immediately caught. Wang Lin's eyes sparkled and he whispered, "Explode!" With a bang, the hand shattered along with the person inside into a shower of blood and flesh. Wang Lin pointed with his finger again and the shattered hand reformed. These savages hadn't reached the 5-leaf stage. They only had 4 leaves, so they were like nascent soul cultivators. Just at this moment, another ray of black light came from the distance. There was a giant face within the black light and it was covered with tattoos. "Brother Wang, protect them for me while I go outside and fight them." Old Man Who walked out of the layers of restrictions and began to fight with the savages. Half an hour later, Old Man Who came back in with his face gloomy and 2 wounds on his body. He was a mess. After he came back in, he sat down and said, "I killed them but 2 more came. I can't beat them." Wang Lin stood up and walked out. Just as he walked out of the restriction, he saw 2 old men holding a chain made of their tattoos. They were attacking the black storm created by the 16 flags. Every time the chain hit the storm, there was a series of crackling sounds. The moment Wang Lin appeared, one of the old men's eyes lit up. The tattoo chain he was holding shook and came toward Wang Lin like a long snake. A sonic boom came along with the tattoo chain. Wang Lin could also feel the soul of a dragon roaring inside the chain. Wang Lin remained calm and reached out. The surrounding black fog gathered to form a lance. Wang Lin grabbed the lance and jabbed it toward the tattoo chain. Bang! The lance collapsed and cracks appeared on the chain before it shattered into individual tattoos. The savage old man's eyes became serious. He let out a roar and took out a red beast skin. The beast's skin caught on fire and turned into a large iron pan. The moment the iron pan appeared, the shattered tattoo quickly gathered in the iron pan. Wang Lin raised his right hand and another lance appeared in his hand. Then he charged out like lightning. There was dread in the old man's eyes as he stood on top of the iron pan. He chanted a complicated spell, and then the iron pan suddenly grew to the size of a small mountain. The old man flew up with the iron pan and dodged Wang Lin's lance. Then the iron pan smashed down from the sky. Before Wang Lin could move away, countless cracks appeared under his feet. His body was being suppressed by an invisible force, causing him to slow down. At the same time, the other savage turned toward Wang Lin and let out a cruel smile. He waved his arm and the tattoos flew off his hand, stacked together, and flew toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes were still calm. He opened his arms and said, "Restriction wall appear." Countless lances made out of restriction gas shot out from the fog toward the tattoos the savage had thrown out. At the same time, Wang Lin touched his bag of holding to take out the celestial sword. With both of his hands, he swung the sword toward the sky. A ray of sword energy shot out and collided with the iron pan. The iron pan trembled and countless cracks appeared on it. The old man standing on it coughed out blood. His eyes were filled with shock. However, he let out a ferocious roar right after. Then 5 leaves appeared on his head and quickly covered his whole body. The leaf went down his feet and into the iron pan, sealing up the cracks. The iron pan regained its shine and smashed down again. He was only 200 feet from Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Without hesitation, he threw the celestial sword into the air. The celestial sword charged through the iron pan like it was cutting through paper. The old man was shocked as he was split in half. Blood splattered everywhere. The restriction on Wang Lin disappeared. He opened his mouth and a stamp flew out of it, smashing toward the other savage as he was fighting against the countless lances. That savage's expression changed and suddenly a beast's skin appeared in his hand. The beast's skin formed a giant hand that smashed into the stamp. Wang Lin snorted. He moved forward, touched his bag of holding, and a bell appeared in his hand. He threw the golden bell at the savage. The savage was already going crazy as he was dealing with the lance and the stamp. Just as he was about to take out another beast's skin, he was swallowed by the bell. Wang Lin waved his right hand and the bell returned to him. He then quickly sealed the bell. As he put it away, he could still hear ringing from the bell. Wang Lin retrieved the celestial sword and black stamp before going back into the restriction. After he was back inside, the surroundings became quiet, leaving behind only the bloody remains of the battle. Inside the restriction, Old Man Who sat under the reincarnation tree with dread in his eyes toward Wang Lin. After witnessing that battle, his dread toward Wang Lin became even stronger. How much more time? Wang Lin looked at the reincarnation tree. The 3 dots were now fist-sized. Old Man Who confidently said, "Soon, just half an hour more and the fruits will be ready." Wang Lin said, "That's too long." Those were only 5-leaf shamans, not 6-leaf shamans, who are equivalent to soul formation cultivators. I can hold one of them back, but if 2 come, I won't be able to do much. There are also 7-leaf shamans here. They are the same as soul transformation cultivators. Old Man Whose expression became gloomy. Just as he was about to speak, his expression changed greatly. Wang Lin let out a sigh and looked over. In the distance, 20 rays of black light were heading their way. 6 of those black lights contained giant faces. The 2 in the front were especially big. The black lights they gave off were like raging demonic flames. 6 leaf tattoos would constantly appear and disappear on their foreheads. After they arrived at the restriction, they all took human shape. The 2 6-leaf shamans at the front were the same 2 that chased Wang Lin and Old Man Who but were lured away by the turtle beast. There were a few more tattoos on the old woman as well as traces of red on her body. The absorption process had clearly just finished. She let out a smile as her withered hand reached forward. The already weakened dark storm shattered. The 16 ghosts dissipated and the 16 flags shattered. After the black storm dissipated, there was a curtain of black fog. The old woman moved forward and was just about to enter the black fog when her expression suddenly changed, and she twisted her body backward at an impossible angle. A stickles flashed by her and disappeared back into the black fog. A wound appeared on the old woman's withered body. She let out a roar. Then tattoos suddenly appeared around her body and began to spin. After chanting a few curses, the tattoos around her turned into balls of fire, which shot out at the black fog. A large number of lances flew out of the black fog and collided with the balls of fire, creating heaven-shaking explosions. At the same time, 5 sickles flew out toward the old woman. A ray of purple light suddenly arrived next to the old woman. When the purple light faded, it revealed a middle-aged man. This person's body was very large. He caught one of the sickles in his hand and squeezed it. The sickle was destroyed. Then he grabbed another sickle and crushed it. The 3 remaining sickles quickly flew back into the black fog and disappeared. That large man was mostly covered in tattoos. However, his tattoos were slightly different from the others. Instead of floating above the skin, his tattoos were engraved into his skin. After this person appeared, the old woman snorted but didn't say anything. This burly man looked at the fog. He made a fist with his right hand and suddenly released a punch. The tattoos on his body moved in a mysterious way, and the muscles in his body condensed into his right arm. The black fog was pushed apart and the remaining 3 sickles that were hiding inside it shattered. Old Man Whose face was sullen as he looked toward Su Luo and Yun Meng under the reincarnation tree. When his gaze fell on Su Luo, Old Man Who clenched his teeth and sent out a ray of spiritual energy that entered Su Luo's body. Su Luo let out a painful scream, coughed out a mouthful of blood, and fell to the ground. However, just before he fell, a large amount of milky white aura came out of his body and was absorbed by the reincarnation tree. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he looked at Old Man Who. This Old Man Who was really vicious. He didn't mind sacrificing his own sect disciple to increase the growth rate of the reincarnation fruit. However, this was an internal matter of Old Man Who's sect. He had no right to interfere and neither did he want to. After Su Luo's body hit the ground, the 3 yellow dots on the reincarnation tree glowed brightly and slowly took shape. Old Man Hu knew that it wasn't enough and let out a sigh. He pointed at Yun Meng, causing her to cough out blood. She looked at Old Man Hu with sadness in her eyes before slowly closing them. A large amount of milky white aura suddenly came out of her head and entered the reincarnation tree. In an instant, 3 reincarnation fruits formed. Wang Lin and Old Man Hu rushed toward the reincarnation tree at the exact same time. With how close they were, they both arrived under the tree at the same time. Wang Lin quickly grabbed one fruit. As for Old Man Hu, he grabbed a fruit with each hand and quickly backed up. His look toward Wang Lin was filled with caution. Without any hesitation, Wang Lin hit the reincarnation tree with his hand. The tree broke off at its base. Then Wang Lin grabbed it and held it over his shoulder. He then waved his hand and the restriction flag came back to him. He quickly escaped afterward. Old Man Hu was the same, but the directions the two of them chose were opposite. As for Chiu Siping, he had opened his eyes. He clenched his teeth and followed after Wang Lin. All of this occurred at the moment the black fog disappeared. At almost that exact moment the 3 people charged out. The savages quickly went to stop them. The burly man's gaze locked onto Wang Lin. He quickly moved and blocked Wang Lin's path. As for the old woman, her gaze was locked onto Old Man Hu as she quickly chased after him. The other 6 leaf shamans had their gazes on Chiu Siping. Chiu Siping felt like he was being locked onto by a vicious beast. Soon a mysterious power covered his body, making it so he couldn't move at all. He saw the 6 leaf shamans grinning at him, and then his vision went black as he lost consciousness. On his forehead, a mysterious and constantly growing tattoo appeared. Facing the burly man that was blocking him, Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. He quickly took out the celestial sword and swung down. The burly man let out a laugh and met the sword with his hand. Bang! The burly man's hand was split open to the point where his bones were revealed. There were even tattoos on his bones. He was sent flying, but his eyes were filled with the urge to battle, so he quickly recovered and charged at Wang Lin again. Wang Lin could feel a shock wave coming from the celestial sword. He borrowed that force to move backward and was about to escape. He almost immediately guessed that this person was not a shaman but a warrior that hadn't appeared before. A shaman wouldn't be able to receive a blow from the celestial sword with just their fist. The moment Wang Lin backed up, he saw the tattoo on Chiu Siping's forehead. His expression sank. He reached out and grabbed Chiu Siping's bag of holding. Then he escaped without taking a single look back. The burly man let out a roar and chased after Wang Lin. At this moment, a few of the remaining shamans came to stop Wang Lin. Killing intent flashed across Wang Lin's eyes and he shouted, "Scram!" He swung the celestial sword horizontally and cut 2 of the savages in half. The other savages paused when they saw this, and Wang Lin used this pause to break through them. The burly man's expression was gloomy as he quickly chased after Wang Lin. The 2 of them were both very fast. In the blink of an eye, both of them disappeared over the horizon. As for the 6-leaf shaman who had just finished refining Chiu Siping, he withdrew his gaze from where Wang Lin went and turned toward Old Man Hu was currently fighting the old woman. He licked his lips as he stared at Old Man Hu's bag of holding. The bag was emitting a yellow light. This light was something not even a bag of holding could hide. Wang Lin carried the reincarnation tree on his shoulder. This tree was very strange. No matter what he did, he couldn't put it inside his bag of holding. The reincarnation fruit was inside his bag of holding, but he couldn't hide the eye-catching yellow light. The burly man behind him quickly chased after Wang Lin. He looked at Wang Lin's back and the urge to battle filled his eyes. He said to Wang Lin in a language that Wang Lin could understand, "Outsider, you won't be able to get away. How about you battle with me?" Wang Lin's eyes were filled with killing intent as he touched the bracelet on his wrist. He swung the celestial sword at the burly man and said, "Fine, I'll have a battle with you." The burly man laughed. He didn't dodge but instead placed both of his hands in front of his chest. He blocked the sword with his arms, causing a loud bang upon impact. His flesh was cut open, but the bones in his arms weren't damaged. The will to battle in his eyes increased and he shouted, "Chi Mu, 6-leaf warrior." Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he said, "Wang Lin, soul formation cultivator." Chimu stepped forward, released a punch, and a sonic boom shot out toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin swung the celestial sword and an explosion occurred 30 feet in front of him. Wang Lin immediately felt his hand go numb. If my original body was here, I could definitely fight with this person. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He waved his right hand and the beast trap flew out. With a bang, the god-slaying war chariot appeared before Wang Lin. The beast chained to the chariot coldly looked at Chimu and let out a heaven-shaking roar. Chimu was startled and his expression paled. God-slaying war chariot, let me see if you are worthy of your name. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. If he didn't kill this person now, he wouldn't be able to escape. The beast on the war chariot suddenly turned toward Wang Lin. After glaring at Wang Lin, the beast let out another roar. The spikes on the war chariot emitted a black light that slowly gathered on the beast's spirit. Chimu felt a sense of danger he had never felt before. He didn't wait for the war chariot to completely activate. He immediately charged forth and swung down his fist. Wang Lin sneered. He moved and swung down the celestial sword. Another explosion occurred 30 feet away, knocking Chimu's hand up. He forced himself to stop before charging toward the chariot again. Wang Lin swung down the celestial sword again. This time he didn't stop after one swing and kept on swinging. He swung the celestial sword 10 times. Bang! 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 Chimu's body was knocked back and his chest had wounds deep enough to reveal the bones underneath. Some cracks even began to appear on the bones near his chest, but they quickly healed as the tattoos flashed. Su Ligua's cry came out from inside the celestial sword. Su Ligua and the wandering souls couldn't fully control the celestial sword. If it was used too much, they would disappear. After Wang Lin heard Su Ligua's cry, he stopped using the celestial sword. At this moment, the beast's spirit had finished absorbing the black light from the spikes. Its body had grown larger as a result. The chain suppressing the beast suddenly disappeared and a heaven-destroying power came out from the chariot and entered the beast's spirit. The beast's spirit let out a roar and left the war chariot. It moved so fast that even Wang Lin wasn't able to see it clearly. It arrived before Chimu. Chimu was terrified and wanted to escape, but the difference in speed was too large. This beast spirit's body was filled with destructive force as it charged through Chimu. Wang Lin saw that after the beast had charged through Chimu, there was a soul inside its large mouth. The soul looked like Chimu. Cracks appeared on Chimu's forehead and slowly extended to his whole body. Then his entire body turned to dust and disappeared.